Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Rita Egidio and welcome to a new episode of Dream Warriors with Michelle here. I was just saying how beautiful was the background of Michelle versus mine, and it's just a picture of the amazing Metatron cube. That is another part. How are you doing, my darling?
Oh, I'm good. I'm really good today. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I had a rough night. And in case that you don't know, I help coaches and mentors and healers, women in special, to grow online, to find clients, but as well, I help them healing their emotional blockages they have to raise their prices, to have more clients, to have more followers online, to just tell their story. And I have clients in different parts of the world. So I'm in Mexico, I have clients in Australia. And today, this is a secret. I woke up like 10, 20 minutes before my session, what I never do. And
Okay.
you should never do that. Like you need to be up on your energy. So normally I wake up at 5, so I have more than enough time to be ready. And it was today we felt a little bit like I was like all over the place, but I received a nice message from my client saying then she really enjoys. So I have no idea how she did, but it's good to know. How are
Sometimes,
you doing?
yeah,
You have this beautiful light. You have a beautiful light, but you have a special energy. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you are, and where you're based?
yes, I would be glad to. Thank you for asking. So my name is Michelle Keinan, and what I do is I help high achieving married or partnered women get what they want from their man in their business and in their life by
Wow.
by confidently leaning back into our feminine power and reactivating our relationships.
Oh my God. I did divorce quite some times in my life.
Okay.
And I will say then at least the last 2 times your deed came very handy if I didn't know you.
I hear a lot of women tell me that. And, I believe fully that relationships are portals and my marriage is my spiritual practice. So whether your relationships stay together or dissolve, it's not the point to stay together. Some things we're there to learn with our partner who's reflecting us, and sometimes it is the right container, sometimes it isn't. So wherever you are now, that's where you are, and whatever you're ready to learn, that's what's up for you to learn, right?
How how did you start all of this? Like one day did you figure out, you know what, I'm going to coach women to have better relations?
Girl, it's like I feel like the medicine we give is the medicine that we need for ourselves, right? So if the short story is I'm a bossy bottom.
I'm a
and
bossy bottom, I love it.
and I have a lot of power. I'm confident. I'm outspoken. I have a lot of, if you were going to think about it in that terminology, masculine energy. And I feel very comfortable playing in that. However, in my relationships, in the history of my relationships, what always ended up happening is I would either dominate the man that I was with and emasculate him and then lose respect for him and then lose my sexual attraction and my libido, or I would get into power struggles with the men that I would date, and we'd end up breaking up, and then they'd end up dating a girl that was, in my mind, she's sweeter and nicer and easier and
Cute
da 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 da, or
and
skinnier or
probably
whatever. And that cycle kept repeating in all my relationships until I met my husband. And I realized a few years into the relationship that I was perpetuating again the same
here we go again.
dynamic. And the amazing thing is, most men don't want to fight with the woman that they're with, right? And I kept getting into these dynamics with him and realizing, like, okay, who's the common denominator here? And instead of looking at him and being like, this is how you have to change, and you have to be more of this, and you have to be better. Like, sure, maybe. And whatever I'm asking him to do, I need to step up into that too. And am I being the woman that has the relationship that I desire to have with my partner? And the answer was no. I was, for lack of better terms, I was cock blocking him in so many different ways.
I love cock blocking.
I had to own that. I had to own that.
Oh my God. It's tough. It's tough I have this duality in my life.
Yeah.
I was, or the Playboy cover, sex symbol, but at the same time, where many men are scared because I tick so many boxes. I'm intelligent, I'm capable, I can do shit, I can make it happen. But it's at the same time, I was being too much for majority of the men. And especially when you are 20 something and you are around 20 something babies, right? I always looked for more mature men with more 10, 14, 15 years than me. Even though I realized that was not enough. So my spectrum was, or I start dating 100 years old man with all the issues that comes with that, or something needs to. And on my last relation, it was a very traumatic relation. And I don't believe it's fault of anyone. I believe was the game that was played, it fit both sides. But I was very destroyed. And I used to say, I felt, no offense, because I'm 100% open to all kind of, I felt like a lesbian truck driver, where I was covering my body. I was embarrassed, I was ashamed. I didn't want to operate my boobs out. I didn't want to do all of that because I was so in my male energy. And I was not having sex, and I was not having so many things. Sorry, because this is your podcast and I should be interviewing you.
No, we're having a conversation.
All these things came to me, and the very interesting thing about my pattern is since a young age, I had sex as a way of getting attention. I had sex as a way of saying I love you. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because on the last couple of years of my life, for different reasons and different partners, sex is not a constant on the equation. And worse, I deeply and completely believe that better sex, better interaction, better I have, more abundant I become. That is my beliefs. My partners don't believe in what I believe, and that alone is a conflict. I did try, at least in my mind, so many things for my last marriage to not dissolve and to not end as it did, because it's very painful for my family. It's terrible, painful for myself in a very selfish way. I'll say it's even more painful for me now than for my full family. What put me apart, I'm a part of my family, of my kids, of everything. So I wish, and I begged so many times for a godmother, for an answer. And the answer was giving me terrible attacks of panic attacks and anxiety and make me run, is the correct way to call it. And now being on a self-love journey. What goes around? When you find out, the only thing that is common on this relation, it's me. Where did you start? Because it's so easy to say it's me or it's him, or it's me or it's him. but to not really do a progress in learning.
Yeah. Well, I think it's easy to conflate personal responsibility with blame. And I think it's so important that when we realize that there's a pattern, that we don't turn it against ourselves, right? In the same way that we don't turn it necessarily against our partner. Like, I feel like there's a huge freedom, energetic, like, when you can take responsibility, because it's the same way as saying that you have a lot of power. Exactly. And I think what happens in a lot of relationships is that, I'll speak from the perspective of myself and the women that I'm lucky to work with, is that we feel powerless in our relationships, which causes frustration, which causes resentment, which causes anger, or which causes what I mean by this power struggle, where the focus becomes, how do I get my power back? How do I get my control back? Instead of, how do we love each other into our greatness, which I feel like is the most beautiful opportunity of like why we have, or why we're able to have relationships, like the potential for what a relationship could be. And so I know this might sound crazy, but I'm in full honesty here. When I realized what I was doing, it was this like light bulb moment of not only how hard I was making life for my husband, but also how hard I was making life for myself. Because, you know, when you're in a relationship, suddenly it's not just you alone against the world. Like, you have somebody else on your team that you have the potential to like join forces with, to make whatever the hell you guys want together. And so you have double the resources and double the imagination and double the energy and double the perspectives. And, you know, and so honestly, the first thing that I did is I apologized to my husband.
That's so powerful.
I remember doing it and getting on my knees and crying. And he was like sitting on the sofa and he was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He was like, what are you doing? Like, and it was like,
apologize not just for him, but for all the times before him, probably. Then you put yourself in the same situation.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, it was a real I'm Jewish, but it was a real come to Jesus moment for me. Of like, oh shit, you know, like, if I want things to be different, and complaining or pushing or getting angry, like it's not working, what is another way that might actually feel really good for me as well as for my husband, and that might make our lives better, instead of us just like fighting against each other and nitpicking. And like, you know, I think it's the way that I talk about it in my work is, how do we get into a cycle of co-creation or upward mobility instead of a cycle of destruction? And a lot of the tactics that high achieving women like myself, like empowered modern women use, like to grow, come from that place of like self-hatred or self-criticism, or as a reaction to our trauma, surviving trauma. And then we do that in our relationships with our husbands or our boyfriends, not realizing that like he's on our team, like he's not trying to inflict that trauma, you know. And so that's a lot of the beginning of the work that I do with my clients, is allowing them to like heal and recognize that the triggering that they're experiencing in their relationship is not like, I say a lot, like, your man is not the patriarchy. Like, he's not responsible for, he's not like your captor or your punisher, and exiting out of that dynamic so that you can have the dynamic that you do want with him.
I want to jump into sex.
Okay.
I want to talk about sex.
Cool.
I am Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
So two things happen on Latin cultures, and Portuguese is the most soft Latin culture. I would say is the more Catholic one, the one who men need to be men and women need to do what men say still, but sex needs to happen. I grew up with the idea that sex was a need, And sex, like I said to you, sex was a way of expression. And we grow up so, at least we grow up in all Latin cultures and African cultures where I grew up in Africa. Sex is a thing, needs to be. If you go to the north of Europe, for example, they don't see sex in that way, but many times they have more, they are more into different sex practicals is not properly, they are more into swingers or polyamorous or BDSM or whatever. This is my experience. I really grow up listening to, oh, women have headaches. Women in a certain moment start pushing men away or whatever. And then I'm 41. I was growing up and I was saying, wait a second, but it's not true. I see a lot of women with a lot of sex drive and a lot of men who are not available. Why are we convinced, or what did happen? Did change the composition of the water and we women start drinking a magician water? Or was just a story based on the stereotype of what was marriage before, and women were, oh, I don't need to procreate anymore, so go and find someone else and leave me alone. I cannot imagine myself doing that. I feel very sad with the idea. So I don't know. I want to talk sex with you because you talk with women. So tell me, I'm the only one not having headaches, or it's just the game change?
Well, I agree that there's a lot of stories out there, and a lot of those stories have been passed down from generations and from times when women didn't have a lot of choice, right? Like it's only very recently, at least, I live in America, but my parents are from Russia. So I am one of those Northern cultures, although I don't think my parents were involved in any of those polyamory parties. But yeah, like it's only very recent, at least in America, that women could have bank accounts or credit cards or work in whatever jobs they want, or not be forced to like live in certain kinds of ways.
Passports.
Right. So, and so a lot of that way of living and that fear and that need to like behave or to use certain methods to get out of their responsibility to have sex or to be a certain kind of woman or wife, like those kinds of tactics and fear stories and energetics have been passed down generationally. And so, there've been the women's empowerment movements and feminism, and yet a lot of what happens when we feel triggered or when we feel afraid is that old fear response and that old conditioning that's been passed down from our mothers or our cultures or our religions starts to, it's not a choice. It's an automatic reaction of like, I need to be safe. I need to not die. I need to, whatever that basic need is inside of us, and part of our opportunity as modern free women is to take full advantage of that freedom and to start to look at some of those stories or limitations that live in our head, and see like if it's true in the relationships that we're in. And can we say, instead of, oh, I have a headache, like, oh, I don't feel sexual today. Or if we want to feel more sexual but we are disconnected, like instead of being like, why don't you ever try to have sex with me, or the spark is gone, it's like, okay, well, if we want more of that, how do we start to create that in our bodies, in our experiences, in our energy, in our language, instead of blaming another person or getting mad at someone else that we don't have those kinds of things that we need.
Yeah, but one thing that it did happen to me many times was my love. So the person that I loved, for different reasons, did not want to have sex with me. And that triggered, because of trauma, because of how in very early in my life I associate sex to attention and love
Totally.
in a very fucked up way, but that became my blueprint. And this, now you are talking and you are saying, and I was like, do I want to have so much sex or so much? I mean, we are talking 2 times a week is what I'm talking. I'm talking normal, whatever normal is. I normally don't exist. But it's something going on with men as well. Then for different reasons, they feel, or maybe they just don't feel they need to be the virile macho man than they used to need to be before.
I agree. Like, one of the things that came up while you were talking is that, like, part of the conditioning that we have is what men are supposed to be like, right? Like that a man is supposed to be turned on all the time, that he'll be ready for all the time, that, like, and it's just not true. It's, and so the conditioning that we experience around ourselves, around sex, or what men are supposed to be like, like, that's part of what I'm talking about, of like taking a look at, is that true? And also if we even want that, right? And so when I say, like, that your relationship is this incredible portal or container for healing and growth, like, if when you're, I'm going to just talk about you for a second, just because you used yourself as an example, that when you feel triggered that your partner doesn't want to have sex with you, which of course is painful, and, being rejected, like, never feels good. We always have that option in that moment. Do I take that pain and turn it back on the other person and get into whatever with them? Or is that an opportunity for me to feel my heart and feel my pain? And there's a nuance here, because there's something really magical that happens with men when you, instead of bringing the emotional storm to them, when you can hold yourself in your pain, there's something that really, and I'm being general here, of course, this isn't every man in all relationships, and, but there's something that happens with my clients and their husbands so much, where it finally allows their man to step up and hold them in a way that generally high achieving women that I work with, they're always holding themselves in that way. So there is, because they're always going to fix their own problems, and they're always going to be there if nobody else is there, and they'll figure it out, and all that other reaction that they do, like when they're hurt in that kind of way. And it's a really intimate and vulnerable, but incredibly, like, healing thing to experience with your partner once you learn how to do that.
How can people work with you?
Well, there's a few different ways for people to work with me. I'm all about connection, like, as a relationship coach, or like, I just really love being in relationship with other women. So I have a really beautiful free Facebook community. You can search for Goddess Wife Vibes. No, you do not have to be married to be in my world. And so you can join my Facebook community, or you can just make friends with me. You can search Satisfied Wife, and I'm all over the internet. You can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, but just pop into my DMs. I want to make sure that every woman can understand, like, what's possible for her in a relationship with her man, or with the man that she wants to call in, and how she can have that right away. So I would just love to hear from people.
Beautiful. What is next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? So I'm kind of thinking about putting together a round table. I want to have authentic conversations with powerful women about what it's like to be in relationships. I think a lot of women they're scared to comment on my posts, or to be honest about what isn't working in their relationships. And so I want to have really authentic, real conversations with women like you, who want to, like, put it out there and remove the shame and the stigma, because we know that once we do that, we can have everything that we want with our man. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing next, but also to continue to really enjoy my life, because the real magic, like, the best thing that you can do for your relationship is is be happy, is to be in your joy, is to, nothing is as inspirational for your man. Like that's the energy that he fell in love with, is like the magical expression of you. And don't do it for him, do it for you. But when you're in that expression, I mean, so much magic and happens not only in your relationship. So I'm just going to continue to cultivate that for myself.
Are we still into the syndrome, we need to be good girls with big balls?
Say what? Which syndrome?
We need to be good girls, but now we need to have big balls.
Oh, wow. No, I don't think that. Not for myself. I don't know. I guess I don't, I think Betty White, didn't she call it, instead of big dick energy, she said big pussy energy. So I'd rather have big pussy energy than have some balls hanging between.
I love it. I love it. Say a quote. Tell us a quote.
Oh, this is a motto that I remind myself of. And it's that I'd rather be in love than be right.
Oh, you see, my big balls now were totally shrink for a little piece of love. What beautiful. Gee, if you could go back in time to that time, then you realize you have that bing. What message did you give to yourself, to your younger self?
Oh, that you don't have to push so hard, that everything that you want is waiting to present itself to you. And if you can just focus on having fun and on trusting and on just really enjoying and loving the people in your life, they will show up for you, provide for you, and love you in ways that like you never imagined possible.
Why people should listen to this specific podcast?
Because you want to have the most amazing relationship, because you don't want to have to fight so hard to feel like you're worthy of love, because you want to understand the secret of connecting with your man in a way that feels really good for you and that also feels really good for him too. Because you want to be unapologetic about everything that you want without having to be bitchy and always get it, because you want to reconnect with the magic, the energy of like your most in flow, most in love with yourself space ever. And because you want to have a divine partnership where you feel like you are just in total gratitude and you are bragging about your man every day. And that's how you live your life together.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to people watching and listen to us on YouTube. Thank you so much for being there with us. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, find Michelle. Satisfied. How do you say?
Well, I'm the satisfied wife, so you can find me.
Satisfied wife.
Yeah.
How many questions they ask you about your husband?
Well, most people want to know about their own husband. So
okay. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to say bye to you properly. Guys, thank you. I see you on the next one. Don't forget, live your dreams, make it happen.